Hi, I'm Dr. Jarek Conrad. Welcome to Healthy and Black, where I share information about the state of health for Black America across 7 categories, from emotional health to physical health. I became plant-based over 15 years ago after losing so many of my family members to chronic health issues. Now I want to help you take control of your health. Hello. Welcome to this episode of Healthy and Black. So glad to have you join us today. Listen, I'm always promising that I'll have a guest. I want to have a guest. And today I really do have a guest, and I'm excited to get into this conversation. That guest is none other than Keena Lampkins, although you can call her Keena Wellness because she founded a company called Keena Wellness, and she'll tell you all about that. But let me read a little bit about Keena's background, and then we'll dive into it. But first of all, how are you, Keena?
I'm doing well, Jared. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm doing well.
Terrific.
Yes.
Great. So we're gonna learn how you can help other people do well.
Yes.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
our focus. But let me give a little bit of your background. Keena Lampkins is a 360 wellness consultant, a
Yes.
personal trainer, and again, founder of Keena Wellness, which is a holistic coaching brand rooted in helping people flourish from the inside out. So we'll
Yes.
talk a little bit more about that. With 2 decades of experience in exercise prescription, technique coaching, and behavior change leadership, Keena blends science, compassion, and lived experience to guide clients toward a lasting well-being. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Sports Medicine from JU. By the way, I taught at JU, so shout out
Yeah,
JU.
dolphins.
She is
Yes.
an ACSM affiliated BOSU certified. So we'll talk about what is BOSU certified and completing her health coaching certification. So Keena's got all these certifications and education, but of course, the one thing that stands out with all that is the lived
Mhm.
experience. So we'll talk about that, which is one of the reasons that I had her on here and as a guest and wanted to talk to her. So Keena, I got a little bit
Yes.
about your background. Anything I
Yes.
missed that you want to
No,
add?
you nailed it.
What is this? What's BOSU?
It's Bosu, actually. It's a half ball.
I talk with people about, especially people who haven't worked out and they're like,
Mhm.
they want to do the perfect, I got to do this program, that program. You can take a simple instrument like
Yes.
that and you can do
Mhm.
so much
You
with
can
it.
do so much with it. Yep. Especially at home, because I used to own studios, personal training studios in the city where I'm from. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. And I started the business out of my car. And I used to go to people's homes and do personal training. And then the word got out. And then I had this tiny space behind a hair salon of about 100 square feet, and it backed into an alley. And so I had to learn how to use equipment that was compact, but made a big impact. So the Bosa was one of the things that I learned to use a lot. And working out from home is great. And the reason I started the studios is because I was running across women in particular that didn't like big box gyms. They felt intimidated. So I'm all about quaint spaces, practical training, so that you can really connect with the customers and they don't feel intimidated at all by the experience.
Yeah, certainly. I've
Mhm.
heard that a lot. People just, when you haven't done it,
Mhm.
it's kind of overwhelming. Am I going to use the things? Or are people going to be looking at me?
Yes.
And
Yes.
now you got everybody in there taking videos and selfie and
Right.
all that, and people don't necessarily want to get
Right.
involved in that. So I
Mm.
got it.
Yeah.
Before we dive into the specific questions that I wanted to ask you about,
Sure.
tell me a little bit about your background, your personal story.
Yeah, sure. I started out just a girl from the neighborhood, north side of Jacksonville. And we grew up running in the streets, racing each other, riding bikes. So it was always about who was the fastest, who was this. And so we moved to the south side of town, and I started going to different high school. So I get to this new school and they have these the university basketball tryouts, and the coach says, "I think you should come out." And I says, I was like, "No way, not me." And so my friends encouraged me to come because they were also playing. And so I tried out for the team. I made it, but I was so turned around, and because I hadn't done it before. And so I brought my perspective into that new world. So because I was in dance and ballet and playing the piano, I showed up to my first basketball game with gold hoop earrings on, lip gloss, and I got my hair done for the first game.
Wow. Wow.
And the referee, he didn't notice my earrings at first, and somewhere in first quarter, like, timeout, he tells me, "Get those earrings out of your ears," and this and that. And so I take them over to my mom. My mom didn't know,
Yeah.
but that was how I got started on this path of health and wellness. And I understand the pain points of getting started to something that you've never done before.
Yeah. You got really lucky that nothing happened.
I know.
Some people don't know basketball is a contact sport.
It is.
I got enough bruises and tears and scrapes to prove that point. Okay,
Yes.
good. So you get introduced to basketball, which
Mm,
started you to be more active, and at that
right.
probably started doing some weight training and
Yes.
starting to take care of your body. Is
Yes.
that did you pretty much stay on that path?
So I ended up, believe it or not, I ended up progressing to the point that I got a college scholarship, under scholarship. And so it was at that point that the nutrition aspect was brought into my life because our coach, we had a nutritionist on staff and they fixed our meals for us and we had a strict diet. And so I started making connections that I couldn't just eat anything I wanted, an endless amount of Taco Bell and Mountain Dews. No offense. I don't know if we can say that, but that's what I was doing in high school. You can eat whatever. And then I get to college and it's this regimented schedule. And I'm seeing, okay, if I don't eat right, then my game is going to be terrible tomorrow. I'm starting making these connections. So then I had 2 pillars in mind. So it was the fitness and now it's the nutrition. So as life went on and through my lived experience, I started adding on pillars because I can see the value of this more like harmonious system. And we sometimes use the word balance. When I think of balance, I think of just 2 things on a scale trying to come at equal weight. But harmony to me is how to make all these things come together and systematically work. Mm,
Yeah, now that's key. So I people who listen or watch this show know that I talk about 8 different dimensions of health. And if you got a severe imbalance in one of them, it can't help but affect the other.
yes,
So
that's right.
we're definitely on the same page. So when I look at everything I've read about your work, it sits at the intersection of wellness, culture,
Mhm,
and that
mhm.
lived experience that we talked about.
Yes.
What prompted you to now say, listen, let me take this and let me help other people with this. I know you like to focus on women and Black women in particular.
So one of the things that it comes to mind that was important to me that I added on in terms of my pillars. So I had the fitness to basketball when I got to college nutrition. Then after I graduated college, and like my senior year, my grandmother developed Alzheimer's. And so I was maybe 20 years old and my aunts and my mother, they all worked full time. And I love my grandmother and my grandfather. So because I was in college and I had the free time, I wasn't working a 9 to 5 like everyone else. I moved in with my grandparents to help take care of my grandmother. And so trying to do that while I was finishing my senior year of college was very difficult.
Yeah, yeah,
And so not only was I seeing her mind start to diminish, it was challenging to my mind as a caregiver. And so then I'm learning the importance of mindfulness and mental health for me personally and in our communities. And so as we were watching my grandmother go through this, no one understood what was happening to her. She was very outspoken and a very capable woman. And we were seeing these changes. So I remember doing like a 3-page report of the stages of Alzheimer's and giving it to my family so we could start to be aware of what's happening. This was in the 90s.
yeah,
And so that's when I just started to take a closer look at our dynamics as a culture and caregiving and caring for ourselves and being aware of our mind, our mindfulness, and our mental health. So I added mindfulness on to the pillar that one of the things that I like to talk to my clients about.
yeah, yeah. I get
Mhm.
that. I too have gone through that process. My mother had Alzheimer's. In the sadness of it all, there
Mhm.
were some humorous He
There
stereotype
were.
that I
You're
look
right.
back and I think when you say she was outspoken, my mother was very outspoken and even more outspoken in some cases. He hardly had any filters anyway, but when there were no filters, no guardrails or anything, I ended up having to move her into 3 different nursing home facilities,
Wow.
fighting. So it's nice to be able to look back and smile at some of those experiences in the middle of all that and trauma.
Mm,
You're wise to recognize that it was having some impact on your own mental
yes.
health and
Mhm.
well-being.
I realized it after I stopped caring for her.
Mm,
In the midst of it, I was in this survival mode,
yeah.
knowing that I had to make sure she ate, I had to make sure my homework got done, my assignments for school got done, and I was just pulling up my bootstraps, pushing through it like we're taught in our community to do. And so when the dust settled and my family finally was like, I think we need to kind of do something different here, help Keena out. And then I started speaking up. This is getting a little bit too much for me on my own. And we put her in a facility. I moved out, got my own apartment, and I had a great job. And matter of fact, I had 2 or 3 jobs. And then all of a sudden, I started having anxiety attacks, waking up
Mhm.
because she used to have really bad sundowners. And I couldn't get to sleep at night because I was afraid she would walk out of the front door
Yeah,
or turn on the gas stove.
yeah.
So when, like I said, once we placed her and I was free from her care, so to speak, but mentally, I was still wired. I was still wired from being in that survival place for so like, it was over the course of 2 years. Mhm.
So you're starting to get this piece. Tell us about the elements that make up your 360 model. What's your perspective on what that holistic health, that holistic wellness framework looks like for you?
Mhm.
And where do you think we're struggling the most?
Yeah, so I chose 360 to get people in the mindset, like you said, of more holistic and not linear, meaning that it's not just one thing that makes you well. I choose to focus on our nutrition, mindfulness, sleep, exercise, and social connectedness. And social connectedness is funny because we know like loneliness is a new epidemic. And so the social part is to for me to just help clients kind of work through some of those things and how to just be acquainted with people, not a deeper level relationship at first, but just to be reacquainted. And then the flip side of social is, are you too social to where your social life interferes with you getting to bed on time?
Yeah.
Or you preparing meals like you should for the week? If you've gone to 3 events in the last 3 weeks, you can miss one so you can meal prep for the week to make sure you're eating the right things.
Ask you this, Keena. You got me thinking about something. So we got this loneliness epidemic. To what degree do you think that some of those people, they're doing things, but they're still lonely? They're around people, but they're still lonely. It's a deeper level. They're not getting their needs met. They're superficial kind of relationships, particularly on social media. You got all kinds of friends, but you
Yes.
might be really lonely. Tell me about that.
One of the things that I think causes that, eh, right off is just the expectations or standards being too high. So I think managing the expectations could help just bring down some of the barriers that we've built so that we can connect on a deeper level and just being more accepting of one another so that we can try to remove some of the barriers and start making real connections again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. So in our society right now, there are so many things focused on these superficial things, how much money,
Yeah.
what are the outward things, and
Right.
not necessarily looking at what really matters. You make $10 million, but you're a lousy person. You end up accepting that person, and then here's a nice
Yes.
who's doing okay,
Yes.
but they don't have all the flashy stuff. I guess that's been the story for a long time. That's what a lot of those songs in the 60s talk about. I don't have a whole lot of money. I ain't got this, I ain't got that, but here's what I do have. What about some systemic issues? We talk about food deserts. We talk about racism, the stress of
Mhm.
racism impacting people's health. I talk about culture, cost, and convenience. Don't get caught up
Mhm.
in we think we should do. Is there
Right.
anything that we're missing, that's hiding in plain sight, that's we're not talking enough about?
I think that we should probably work on being an advocate, more advocates for our own wellness and our own health, and not so dependent on the system to do that. I think we forget that there are people just like us, doctors, nurses, CNAs. They're people just like us, and they have good days and they have bad days. So the best thing we could do is be an advocate for our own self and change the perspective. That system is what's going to save us or keep us healthy or keep us well.
Yeah, yeah. So if I can paraphrase what I'm hearing it, we talk about the systemic inequities,
Mhm.
disparities caused by systemic issues, the healthcare system, when really the system that we should be talking about is our own body
Is our own bodies.
and all the
Yes.
things
Yes.
that, that everything is connected, right?
Yes.
Everything that we do is
Yes.
connected in this system. And
Yes.
just like our models of health that have all these dimensions, when you got all these different, if one of them is not right, that's going to affect
Yes.
others. So
Yes.
that's why you got to do all this stuff together. If you work out
Yes.
every day, but you're eating lousy, that system ain't going to work the way it should. If you're
Yes.
eating great, but you ain't moving at all, that system
Yes.
is not
Yes.
going to work. And the other system that we don't think about is how we're thinking about all of this.
Yes,
Is
that's
our
right.
perspective on
What is our
everything.
perspective? Yes.
I think that's a
And I,
good point.
and I'll add that like I know I've worked with clients before in personal training, and the clients that showed up that have already read about programs or exercises they felt would be good for them, they were
Mm.
advocating for their fitness. Those were the clients that I was excited to work with because I felt that they were invested in their fitness. I felt that they were invested in themselves. So I could take that energy along with my expertise and we could move mountains together in terms of their health and fitness. Same for a physician. If some doctors may sometimes think that, God, if my patients understood their own systems and their own body so that they can give me the type of feedback that I needed to treat them properly. See, then that's creating a better system between patient and physician.
Yeah, I got an example. I got a story for everything. I should have wanted to have a story for everything. The first time I met with one of my primary care doctors, the doctor walked in and was going through their protocol, and you can tell it was moving fast, like sometimes doctors do. And especially when he found out that I was plant based and
Mhm.
looked at my weight and this and all my numbers are good. He's like, I don't have to spend much time with you. Check box, and we move on. But I was like, hey,
Mhm.
I have questions about X, Y,
Uh-huh.
Z. I know this is good.
Mhm.
However, I've noticed blah, 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 blah. And it's interesting because he didn't get like frustrated or
Right.
upset. He was like excited. He was like, oh, tell me more about that. And he actually sat
Right.
down and he was
Right.
like, let's talk
Right.
through that. It was like,
Right. Right.
he was like, man, I like that I got somebody
Right.
who was thinking about
Yes.
this stuff and he
Yes.
enjoyed it. So after that, every time I would go to the doctor, he'd walk in with a different demeanor and
Yes.
what's going on, and he's asking
Right.
me questions, and what have you
Right.
noticed, and how you
Yes.
finding out about my work and what I
Right.
do and how I'm helping.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
a whole different relationship
Experience. Yes.
because he knew that I was gonna challenge him a little bit about some of the questions and stuff, and he was ready for that.
He was
So
ready. Yes.
yeah,
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 because his job is to treat you, not to educate you outright. He's there to
yeah,
treat you. It's not a classroom. He doesn't have time to
yeah,
go and do an in-depth teaching on your systems, the one that
yeah.
God gave us. We come in as an advocate for ourselves, being aware of our systems so that they can treat us properly.
You can go into the doctor's office more educated about what's
Yes.
going on because they
Yes.
need that. It will
They need it.
help them target whatever kind of intervention you might need should something in that system not be
Yeah.
functioning the way you want it to function. So one of the things that as we're speaking about doctors and this, almost every doctor would tell you, I tell them what to do, they don't do it. So a lot of doctors I've had conversations with a lot of doctors that say, I just can't crack the code on behavior change.
I
I
see.
can't get them to make the change. And even
Mhm.
when they make the change, it's very difficult for them to sustain the change. So my whole business, Conscious Health, is based
Mhm.
on this behavior change model. I call it behavioral operating system. That I think I target all of those elements. You've had some success in helping some of your clients
Yes.
maintain the gains that they've made, or in your case, the losses, weight loss losses that they've had. You've had some success in having them do well over a sustained period of time. How has that been key for you? What's driven that for you? What's caused that to happen?
It's about these small micro changes over time, not this big combustionable change overnight.
Yeah.
And no one likes the process. And let's just be honest,
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
don't want the process, but everything has one. I think the mistake a lot of people make is that they feel like it's just based on being motivated when that's not enough. Because there are going to be some days where you don't feel like doing certain things. So you have to have the structure and the system in place, already in place. You don't feel like going to work, but the structure says you work from 8 to 5. So on the days you don't feel like it, you still have to be there at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is never too late to reinvent yourself, ever.
It's funny because a lot of people, they feel like it is too late. I missed my window. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
too far gone. I got too much to do. I don't know where to start. And especially people who have like a genetic inherited kind of thing. My whole family has high blood pressure, for instance. It runs in my family. So they throw their hands up and they're like, I can't, this is what we
Yeah,
have. And you and I know that
right.
that's not your destiny. Maybe
Right.
talk about that a little bit. What's your advice for people who everybody in my family has type 2 diabetes? So there's no way around it for me.
To that person, I would say it's more so about habits. So within families, within groups, there's a lot of time like behaviors. So sometimes if 2 generations before you had high blood pressure, then check to see what their diet was or when did they get to sleep. Because one of the causes of high blood pressure is sleep deprivation, not getting to bed on time. So just taking on that way of thinking just because is not being the advocate for yourself that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's like I'm going to look at habits. When I look around, my dad worked nights and he slept, he's supposed to sleep during the day, but he never did get to sleep. And my granddad worked the same job nights and they both had and start making these connections more toward habits,
Yeah.
more toward habits, not genetics, because that's out of our control. But what we can be an advocate for, and that's within our control, are the habits that we see and that has shaped us to maybe have some of our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's key. So what we're seeing as a genetic predisposition may actually be I'm just as an environmental predisposition. I'm doing the same
Yes.
stuff you were doing, so I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that even if we can show at birth that you have a predisposition because of some genetic trait that's been passed out, science has shown us over and over that's not a
Yeah.
destiny for you. You
That's
got to
right.
do the things to trigger it. You got to
Yes.
feed that predisposition for it to
Yes.
manifest itself. Let me go back to something you mentioned, sleep.
Mhm.
And we don't talk enough about sleep. When people are
Right.
talking about health and wellness, that they immediately go first to exercise, then they go to
Yes, they
diet,
do.
but they don't talk about sleep. Tell me your perspective on that. How important is that with your clients? How often do you see that they're not sleeping? And when they start, do they get any benefit from it? Tell me more about your experience with this.
Most of the clients that I work with, when I ask the question, 7 out of 10 of them aren't getting more than 3 or 4 hours of sleep at night for different reasons.
Yeah.
My ladies that are in my mid 50s, going through late 40s, mid 50s, or going through menopause.
Hot flashes keeping you up all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the mindset of that this is normal and this acceptance of it, I think, is the bigger cancer. Because if if you broke your leg, you wouldn't still try to walk on it and say, I'll get better. Or I'm just going to walk on this broke leg. You wouldn't accept it or some other condition. And sleep should be valued that way as well. Say, I've tried melatonin, I've tried meditation, I'm still not getting to sleep. So I'm going to be an advocate again for myself and talk to my doctor to help me go to sleep. I have to fix this first problem. It starts a chain reaction. Type 2 diabetes, your immune system is affected. Colorectal cancer is tied to sleep deprivation, memory issues, cognition issues, all these things that show up in our nation as a whole, but especially in the Black community.
So yeah, I think that's important. So as we start to wind down, you talk a lot in your business about flourishing.
Yes.
Flourishing. And I
Yes.
know different people might have different ideas of what that means. What does that look like for people who are sitting at home? Like, how would I know if I'm flourishing? What does that look like?
I love it. Flourishing. Flourishing is where you have gotten to this place, which is determined and defined by you in your wellness, your holistic wellness, based on my approach or method, the 360 wellness. So nutrition, exercise, sleep, mindfulness, social connectedness. Where you've gotten to a point where you're at peace with those, oh, you're doing well, you're thriving, you're not in survival mode anymore. You're aware of your body, you're advocate for your health. Now, what it means to flourish is where you're rubbing off now on other people. You've broken the cycle. You've broken the cycle. Now you're rubbing off on other people. People in your community notice that is a healthy family where you're a leader. You're a leader in your community for wellness. You're an example. That's what it means to flourish.
I
Yeah.
got that. So it's not just about you. You talk about being from the inside out. So it's taking care of
Yes.
yourself, but this whole outside piece,
Yes.
it's having an impact on
Yes.
everybody in your environment.
They're now a recipient of whatever it is you have to offer. So if you are a doctor and you've mastered those domains, can you imagine? Your doctor that gets to sleep on time, exercises, socially connected, mindfulness, that doctor coming in to treat you, or that teacher coming in to treat your kids, or that banker at the bank when you need a loan for your house or your car, dealing with that person versus someone who doesn't eat right, doesn't exercise, isn't mindful or focused on their mental health, isolated, expecting to get an approval from that person.
That's a good note for us to all think about. When we flourish, we enable those around us to
Yes.
flourish as well. We have this positive impact. Is there anything specifically that you would tell to women in general and Black women as we have
Yeah.
to wrap up here?
We naturally persevere through hard times and we know how to make something out of nothing. We know how to do that. And so to my Black women out there, I would say to just take some time for yourself and really invest in your health, really invest in your well-being. Yeah. And it's okay. It really is okay. And that life isn't a life that you can't afford or it is only for the rich and famous or a certain type of person or a certain race of people. That type of life where you're sleeping on time, eating well, that you have good friendships and connections, that your mental health is good, you're mindful, and that you're exercising. That life isn't reserved for someone with money. That's why God has me here as a Black woman and be an example in the wellness community and you as a Black man to show that this is for everybody.
Yeah. In fact, as you describe it, it's not only do you not need to be wealthy and all that to have this, but you if you do all this, you increase the
Yes.
likelihood of personal and professional success and however you define that.
Yes.
So it's the foundational stuff
Yes.
that's so important
Yes.
because there are a lot of people who have achieved, you know, what you would think are the outward signs of success,
Yes.
the wealth and the material stuff, but they contribute to that isolation
They
statistic.
do.
Many of them are lonely and unhappy. And we've heard this story. We've
Yes,
heard
we
this
have.
story enough to know
Yes.
that there must be some truth
Yes.
behind it.
Yes.
So you get that foundation right.
Mm,
all those things happen to come your way, you're not dependent on those things for your happiness and for your
that's right.
wellness. You already got something.
You already have it.
So now that's important. That's
Mhm.
important. Thank you so much. So glad to have you as a guest here. What's the best way for anybody to get in contact with you for some advice or to
Mm,
meet you right there in Jacksonville?
sure, they can actually text messaging works great. And I can leave the number on in the notes or but it's 904-815-0553. They can just text me.
904-815-0553.
3. Uh-huh.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Keena.
You're welcome.
Appreciate having you on the show. Look
Thank
forward to
you.
staying in touch and
Yeah.
much continued success.
Thank you. Thank you, Cherrick. Same to you.
All right. Take care. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm your host, Dr. Jarek Conrad. If you have feedback on today's episode, please email info@jarekconrad.com. I love to hear from you. Don't forget to visit jarekconrad.com to subscribe to my blog. Thanks for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast. Until next time, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health.